The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV. Hot topics, food, fun, entertainment, and serious business. Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.
Thank you for joining us on another edition of Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. You know, we focus on a lot of different things here on my show. We talk about entertainment, we talk about, politics, but a lot of times we just really try to focus on the programs that are happening here in this community that help the people who live and work here in Southern Nevada and make this community a better place to live. Now, on my previous show, we talked a little bit about Project 150, an SOS radio station here in town, a Christian-based radio station that is doing this Cup of Soup drive for disadvantaged teenagers here in Southern Nevada. The numbers are staggering, but what's even more staggering is how you can help very simply help these teenagers stay in school and graduate. And here to tell us more about the program that SOS radio station is doing is Scott Herrold. He is the program director and he's the morning show DJ. I listen to him every single morning and I just love your ministry and the things that you have to say and the music. It just gets my day off to a great start. And one of the reasons why I really, really want to pump this, I was so impressed with the bottled water drive you did for the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and your listeners and their friends and family. The goal in that case was, I think, like 31,000 cases, and you ended up raising more than 70,000 cases of bottled water just from your listeners and the people attached to them.
Yeah, it was wild because basically the rescue mission had called us and our friends over there said, hey, we're about to hit into summer. This was back in the spring, and this is the big part of the year where our homeless are coming and asking for bottled water, you know, and we go through a lot all throughout the summer, and we're almost out. Our warehouse is bare. Could you help us? Could we go on the air? Could we maybe do an interview together and talk about it? And one of our DJs, Robert, was talking to Bob David over there and basically was like, yeah, come on in. And he was like, well, what's ultimately the need? They said, if we could do like 34,000 bottles of water, that would get us through like the end of the spring, early into summer, give us a good start. And he said, well, what would be the goal for like the entire summer? What would get you through for the whole summer, all the bottled water you need? And he said, about 55,000. He said, let's do it. And so we talked about it, and so many people came bringing cases and cases, and ended up over 72,000 bottles of water. Then we stopped counting. But I saw the pictures of their warehouse, and it was packed.
And you don't think about, and that's what impressed me so much. I wouldn't have thought about bottled water, but one of the things that really impressed me was that is something everybody can relate to, because let's face it, I'm so spoiled now. If I go into a business and they don't offer me bottled water, it's like, well, do you care about my business? But we need it. Staying hydrated for those of us who have the funds is one thing, but when you're talking about people who don't have the funds, and by getting those donations, you save the Las Vegas Rescue Mission a chunk of cash.
Absolutely. I mean, you just look, everything that they get is donated. I got an opportunity to speak there with some of the guys that are in the program there, and just the basic needs like chairs, desks, tables, the microphones that their musicians were sharing, the guitars, all those things were donated. All the food they have, people that are going through the rehab programs for drug and alcohol abuse, they provide that for free for them. Because many of them have come off the streets, or many of them just don't have the funds to go to an outpatient clinic, and they go to the rescue mission and they cover that, and they're changing lives in our city.
That's amazing. So let's talk about this Cup of Soup drive, because, and I'm going to take this when I purchased these. One of the things that impressed me, because I'm a ramen noodles girl, if I don't have at least 10 packs of ramen noodles in my cabinet that I can just go to really fast, I feel deprived. I get kind of shaky because you come home, it's hot like today, you don't want to stand in front of a stove. And I'm talking about, I have a house, I have a stove, I have all the wherewithal to do the packs. But one of the things, and why you're being so specific about, you want noodle cups, why is that?
Yeah, so Project 150 is an organization that works with homeless and disadvantaged youth and a lot of displaced youth. I mean, we think of homelessness as the people sitting on the streets and living in shelters, but a lot of students, you just think about the state of the family in our world. You have a lot of single parents that are just working really hard just to make ends meet. You've got a lot that are dodging child support, and then you've got addiction. In our city, it's one of the biggest challenges, and so these students are kind of displaced. And so they go in and they work with Project 150, and they go in because Project 150 offers free food and help with a lot lot of different things, but the cup of noodles are something that they can take because they can put that in a backpack.
Right.
If they're able to get a part-time job, they could take it there, pour some water out of the faucet, throw it in the microwave, have a hot meal, go over to a friend's house, or do that in between school, go into the teacher's lounge, say, hey, can I get some water and work on the microwave for a second?
Right.
And they can take that with them. But it's the number one thing that they ask for,
Right.
and it's a great opportunity for Project 150 because that introduces the students to the other services they have, like
Right.
counseling and shelter and
Right.
all the educational resources. So the students come in asking for the cup of noodles, but they walk away with a whole lot more hope.
Right. And this is just one aspect of the back-to-school things that SOS radio station is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, we're asking for backpacks, school supplies. We have a whole list of all kinds of resources on our website over
Right.
at SOSradio.net, but we're having a lot of people that are saying, hey, I'm not able to actually physically bring the cup noodles to you, but I'd love to donate towards that. You can actually do that online. They have this really cool resource Project 150 has where you can just order it right there,
Yeah.
and it goes and ships right to them. But so many people have been bringing in these cases of cup noodles. It's wild.
Right.
Like our lobby has just been filling up like floor to ceiling, around the wall. We're joking around. We're like, it feels like I'm fourth. I feel like I'm in like 7th grade,
I
6th
know,
grade.
right?
I'm
Right?
like creeping around like I'm building a fort
Yeah.
with my little friends.
Yeah, I'm making it my goal to actually stop by at least once a week and kind of chronicle the growing piles. I mean, it's coming up to the ceiling already on Friday when I was there. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys are running out of space to walk in there. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
And a really good story. We won't get into details, but when I drove up, I saw this kid and his mom. I found out later it was his mom, getting out of a car, and they were taking a case in. And it was a young man who was involved with the radio station, and he said the nicest thing. And I want to talk a little bit about the family there at SOS, because Don Vincent was there on the desk, and we were listening to this young man talk. And the reason why he was donating, it was his birthday, but he wanted to give a present to a disadvantaged teenager rather than get a present for his birthday. And as soon as his mom and he left, we were like, oh, we just burst into tears because it was so touching and so real and so just honest, you know?
Yeah, we hear so many unique stories like that because, you know, when we're playing these songs, people will say like, I hear like the right words
Right.
at the right time. It's like I heard the words I was supposed to hear today. I heard the story I was supposed to hear today. It just shared some encouragement with me. And what's cool is so much of our organization is driven by volunteers, people like him
Right.
who come in and maybe they volunteered last year and
Right.
they hear something, they plug in with what we do, or they come to some of the events and things we do, or they plug in with a bottled water drive and they come back again and again because they see that life change. But we'll
Yeah.
have people just walking down 6th Street in Sahara where we're at. We'll have people that are living on the streets that will walk in and ask for a bottle of water. We'll ask for a cup of soup. It was kind of funny because just this weekend we've got a little security camera out front, and our general manager was telling me, he said, yeah, well, you came in that morning, you brought in a couple of cases that someone had left right on the front porch of the radio station. He goes, a few of them were actually taken. Somebody was walking down the street. There was some people with shopping carts, some
Sure,
homeless that were
sure.
walking by, and they just took a few of them and they left. And I'm like, hey, I'm fine with that because
We would've
it's all
given them
going
to
to the
them
same
anyway,
point, right? That's
right.
what we're doing. I wanted to
Yeah.
get to the right people. Hey, if
However it
that's-
happens.
You know, it's like you're walking down the street. It's like you're manna from heaven. You're like, I'm hungry. There it is.
There you go. Right, exactly. Well, give me a little background on SOS, because I just recently discovered you guys, like maybe several months ago, and I've just become a huge fan. It gets my day started like so many, all of your listeners. I hear the testimonials, and they're all saying the same thing that I'm saying. It's just really great Christian-based music. It's something the whole family can listen to, and no commercials. How are you guys able to pull this off with no commercials?
Yeah, well, there was this amazing visionary. His name's Jack French, and he went around and planted Christian radio stations around the country back in the 60s and the 50s. And in 1972, just before that, he had this vision to launch an FM, 100,000 watt FM radio station in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And so he moved here with his family, and they launched KILA Christian Radio,
Okay.
which is now
Yes,
what
I
we call
remember
as
that, yeah.
SOS Radio.
Right.
And so over the years, it's grown, and it's all throughout the Mountain West now. That's why we call it SOS, because the call letters are different in different
Sure.
cities. But basically, it's listener supported. His vision was, you know what? Let's focus on the content. Let's focus on the stories. Let's focus on what God's doing. Why do we need to clutter it up? We'll just
Right.
make the need known to our listeners, and if they believe in that, and if it resonates with them and connects with them, maybe they'd want to give towards that, and then we can keep it commercial free. And what I love about it being the morning guy is I don't have quotas and things I have to read and liners that are paid for. I can just talk about content. I can just share great stories, and we can have fun, and have conversations, and encourage people.
Yes.
That's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, and I just love hearing the people sharing. I think the one that really got me when I first started listening, and you run it a lot, and I just love it, where the woman says, you know, I can listen with my kids. And you can't say that about most radio stations anymore. And I was one of those people, I actually stopped listening to radio because I really got tired of getting shocked with all of a sudden either, I mean, I don't want to sound like a fuddy-duddy, but I really just want to listen to really good music. I don't really need to listen to like depressing things or profanity or things that I like really was flinching in my own car. And I think I'm a pretty progressive person, but some of the stuff I was listening to on mainstream radio, I thought, I am really cluttering up my brain and my soul with this. I need to listen to something else. So I had stopped listening to radio entirely. I was just listening to CDs. And I need to, because of my profession, to stay on top of pop culture. And somehow, as I was just kind of going through, and I thought, I'm going to just try random radio stations, I found you guys, and sorry, I'm not switching. I'm stuck with SOS right now.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Is that what you get from people when you go out and you tell them that you work for SOS?
Yeah, we have a great community,
Yeah.
and we've got a lot of awesome supporters in this city, but really what we're trying to do is we're just trying to share some hope in this crazy world. I mean, you know, from working in the news all these years, when I watch you on TV, I mean, when you're up early, if the first thing you're putting into your brain is another negative story, and it's the political division and all the infighting, well, that's the first thing you put into your head.
I know.
Sometimes you wake up and you wonder when you get to work, like, why do I feel like I got a chip on my shoulder? Why do I feel just kind of like some anxiety? Why do I feel like my shoulders are all tense? And it's because sometimes that's the first thing we're hearing, and it just kind of sets the tone for your day. And so we just try to share positive stories and point people back to truth, you know, and point people back to God's light and the good things that He's doing in our community. And hopefully we can together make this a better place to live. Yeah,
and I love it that you celebrate life, but you don't shy away from, like you said, with the rescue mission, the very real challenges that we face here in South, that all communities face. But you're talking about what's happening locally and how we can help. I mean, this is one of the examples of, you know, they're the simple things that you don't stop to think about, like bottled water, cup of soup, you know, what a difference that can make in one person's life.
One of my favorite things that we were able to do, we'd worked with an organization called Hope for Prisoners here in town, and it was started by a gentleman named John Ponder, who actually was incarcerated himself and just had one of those moments in prison where he realized, I need something to change, and if I ever get out of here, I want to do something to help the youth that were like me, who, you know, maybe somebody planted a bad seed, or just put a bad thought in my head that just drilled into something else over time and just grew. And when he was able to get out of prison, he said, I'm going to start an organization to help, and we're going to help get people out of prison, get them reacclimated back into society. And this past Christmas and the year before, we were able to put on a party for children who have incarcerated parents, because the stats say that 70–80% of children whose parents are incarcerated, if someone doesn't intervene and break that cycle, there's a good chance that they'll be going to prison as well. And so we're able to throw a Christmas party at Casa Grande, inside the prison facility, and set it up, not just for a few families, but literally make a Christmas morning experience for every single one of those families. So imagine the chow hall in this prison with a couch, a coffee table, an armchair, some candy and Christmas cookies on there, the family having a meal together, gifts, bikes, guitars, Christmas music playing, catered dinner, and all these kids actually got to spend that time with mom and dad who are incarcerated. Got to make a special appearance for that. It was the second year we did it. We're planning on doing it again this year. We're hoping to grow it to even more families. It was amazing. But it's about the family reunification part of this, because we don't want these kids to get lost in the shuffle. We want to invest in them. And so we look for opportunities to say, what's a problem in our community and how do we solve that?
Yeah. I mean, that kind of outreach. Now, give me an idea of like what your operation is like, because when I came down to the station for the first time, you're talking about a real small group of folks who are, and then the tentacles of the go out there, but you guys like a really close-knit family. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the radio station's been around since 1972. We've been in the building here we're at for, I don't know, about 76.
And you're right down the street from Marie. I always use, I love landmarks, you guys know, because I'm like really crazy when it comes to street names, but if you're coming down Sahara or going up Sahara, if you get to Marie Callender's, you either turn right or left on 6th Street, and you're within walking distance of SOS radio station.
Yeah, and so we've been in that building since 1976, but yeah, we have roughly 12 to 15 people in our organization, And this is our mission control in Las Vegas. We've got an office in Salt Lake City and one in Twin Falls, Idaho. We've got a couple of staff members, and then we have a few part-time people as well in addition to all that. But really, that's it. And it's a lean organization. It's listener supported, so we're not selling big corporate sponsorships. It's just normal people that listen, just like you and me, that say, I want to be a monthly partner. I want to give to that because I believe in that, because it builds into our family. So that's what's been so cool about it. It's a lean organization, but God's provided since 1972, and He's consistently grown the team.
And I love that that overhead is low, but what I also love is, and I can hear this from all of the different programs, and you emphasize, you don't beat people over the head about it, but you do say, look, this is listener supported, so you're not listening to a bunch of commercials, and you're not listening to a bunch of like pledge drives or that type of thing, other than these types of things where you're encouraging people to give to help a greater need in the community. It's not necessarily give to support the radio station, but I think what I hear from your listeners is that's just an outgrowth of, I'm so glad for what you give to me. I would like to give to make sure you guys stay on the air.
I believe generosity, it's full circle.
Yeah.
You know, we're not owners, we're stewards. We manage the resources that God gives us. And we believe when we love something, we set it free. When we invest in things, we look at money as seed. I don't own my money. As soon as I start saying I own my money, you know it owns you, right?
Right.
And what I see is, money is seed. And you can take that seed, you can eat the seed, or you can plant the seed and then grow that.
Right.
And so that's just what we try to do. That's how we try to look at what generosity is all about.
Tell me how you got into radio. How did you get to be the morning show program director at SOSradio.net? Net.
Well, when I was in high school, I actually went to a really large high school, had about 5,000 students in Metro Detroit. That's where I grew up. I played baseball most of my life. I tried out for the baseball team and made the first cut, the second cut, and then I was on the bubble to make the third cut for the team, because it was a big school, and I didn't end up making it. And the coach said, hey, I like you. I want you to try out again next year. Don't give up on this, but this year we just got a lot of really good players and a lot that came back, and there's not room for you.
Right.
And so my mom said, you got to get involved in something, Scott. What are you going to get involved in? What kind of club are you going to get involved in? And I saw that the high school had a radio station. It was a little 200-watt radio station, so I had to write a newscast, I had to write a sportscast, and I had to stand up in front of the teachers and some of the student directors, which are mostly like the seniors who'd been at the school for 4 years, and I had to read this, and they somehow let me on the staff. So I started by doing news, and I worked my way up. And it was kind of an intimidating thing. I mean, you know how it is. I would have to call, we'd look through the newspaper, we'd look through press releases, and we would have to call community leaders and record interviews with them, and so we can get our news cut. So I could say, Superintendent Mike Johnson says blah, 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 blah about the new budget, and then play the clip of him actually explaining what was going on with the budget. And then we would do the newscast. So we had to do the interview part, and we had to write it. I mean, that was just like trial by fire as a freshman in high school. One of the best things I've ever been involved in. So I just worked my way up. Working in high school in my senior year, I just thought, I could work at McDonald's, or I could get a job waiting tables at Applebee's, or I've been doing radio for 4 years, kind of. And so I met with a couple of program directors and reached out to them and just connected with them, and ended up getting a part-time job and worked my way up there, and then went to college at the same time.
Amazing. Now, where did you go to college?
I went to Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
And you majored in?
I actually majored in business and marketing. I was going to major in communication, radio, TV, but our program director said, hey, Scott, you're working here and you're working with some great people. Why don't you study business or computers, and then couple that with your education here, doing the trade, and then you'll be able to get into leadership. And that actually opened the door for me to be able to move into becoming a program director as well down the line.
Okay. So now what were the steps that led you here to Las Vegas and SOS?
So I actually left Detroit and went and planted a youth-targeted Christian music station in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with another radio group there that had a bunch of different radio stations, sports stations, adult contemporary country stations, and another Christian station. And then I launched a radio station there, did that for 5 years, and then ended up coming to Las Vegas. It connected with Brad and Chris Staley, who had been here since the very beginning at KILA and now SOS Radio, and just kind of connected with them. And Brad came off the air. Brad was a longtime morning DJ for SOS and ended up becoming our president. And so he and Chris lead the organization now. They're married and just amazing friends, amazing leaders. And so they stepped off the air, and and I came in as the new morning guy.
Well,
Been here
now,
11 years.
Why Las Vegas?
You know what? I feel like this is a city that's got a lot going on. It's a fun town. I mean, God is doing amazing things. Everybody talks about Sin City, but I look at it like where sin abounds, God's grace abounds all the more. And so you see a lot of brokenness in this town. You see a lot of addiction. You see poverty. You see homelessness. You see education challenges. And I look at those kind of things as opportunities. Like, how can we serve? How can we make a difference? And this is a city that needs that. And so with good people moving in that want to invest in that, that's what I'm excited about. That's why I love the city.
Well, what I like is, as a native, is that it's always been that this way for me, is that there's always the public perception, other parts of the country, not here in town, other parts of the country would like sort of had this image. Now it's changed because Las Vegas has become so hip. But when I was a kid growing up, it was like, you're from Las Vegas. And people would like, you could just hear the disdain and contempt. You know, it's like, you're from Sin City and gambling. And now it's like, oh, like we're rock stars. But the only thing that has always been constant and that other people from other parts of the country did not see is the heart of this city is huge. And people who are just coming through and they were only going to the Strip or they were only coming here for gaming or something else, you know, they didn't see that. At the heart of this community has always been huge. And that if there's a request or for help in some way, shape, or form, this community always answers it. And that wasn't not even covered even by local news.
People step up. There's a contagious generosity in this city that I love.
Yes, yes, very much so. So as we're moving forward with this Cup of Soup drive, how do you think this is going to play out? Like, what are you hearing in the mornings on those few times when I'm not listening to you just like glued to my radio station?
Yeah, so what we asked is the team at Project 150, what would be the need that would stock you with cup noodles for the entire school year for all the needs that homeless students are asking for? And they said be about 4,000 cases.
Right.
So like if you're going to the warehouse club, you're getting a case of like 36 pack. That's about what they're saying. About 4,000 of those would meet all their needs for the entire school year. So that's what we're asking for. We're doing that through the end of the month at SOSradio.net. I checked in with our promotion director, Robert, just before I walked in today. He said, we had, 700-800 cases in our lobby, and then Southern Hills Baptist Church actually called and they said, we'll take 10% of the need and we'll meet that. So they've been collecting that and they're going to contribute that. Plus Project 150 has had quite a few people that have been stopping by. I think they had about 187 cases that were donated there. So we're over 25% of the need there. We still need roughly, 3,000 cases, but we've got 2 weeks. I think we can do this. It's going to take a few people actually driving over to the store, picking them out. I mean, one of those cases, I feel like it's about $8.
I know, right?
I mean, think about what you could do with $100 and pack your car, bring it over. We can meet this need of the 4,000. We can help these homeless teens.
Yeah. Well, if what you did with the bottled water was any indication, because I was already a fan, but when I saw the tremendous outpouring of support in this community, and think one morning I was listening and this one lady just walked in with like from the dollar store, like you can get those 6 for $1, and she said that's all she could afford. Hey, one box or just a few of the cups, as long as they're cups, because they really need to be cups. That's really critical. But it's whatever you can do. It's simple. These are things that everybody can relate to. It's like it's food. These kids need food.
I had a Facebook message just yesterday from a mom, and she took a picture of her daughters and said they came to our Wet and Wild event. We did Summer Splash.
Yeah, before we go away, we have to talk about that too, yeah.
And so she said they came to Summer Splash. They heard about the Cup of Noodles drive that we're doing. Project 150 actually had a tent there with us, and so they were talking to them. And their daughters got really excited, going, wow, there's a lot of homeless students at our own school. We can help. And so this weekend, they made their own lemonade stand, and they made flyers, and they were passing them around all around their neighborhood. And they raised over $120, these little girls, towards this drive to help Project 150. I mean, anyone can help. Every single one help. That one cup is going to feed someone who's hungry for lunch.
Right. Let's talk about your Wet and Wild event, because it was wild. You guys got hit by the weather and all kinds of crazy stuff happened. But I was listening to a lot of the live your live reports. I just got the sense that it really didn't matter. People were having such a great time. It's like, so we had to get out of the pool, and so Mother Nature came through, and so it was still a great time.
Yeah, we're throwing a party for our listeners. You know, obviously we're based in Las Vegas, but we've got a lot of listeners in Southern California and Arizona and Utah and even in Northern Nevada. And a lot of those are listening all throughout the year. And they're like, hey, we can be a part of this. They drove out. They came in for it. We had Brandon Heath who's going to do music at 7 o'clock. And we had Cars 3 as this dive-in movie as you're floating in the pool. So we had a whole lot of fun things going on and games and races down the slides. But yeah, the weather got kind of gnarly in the early afternoon, and a lot of people came on the front end, and they actually had lightning within 5 miles of the park, so they had to say, hey, everybody out of the pool, because that's a liability in a water park, and I get that. And they said, hey, we don't want to have to close the park, and so we'll wait it out, but it was getting kind of sketchy. It got windy, it got dark, and then they were watching the radar, and it was finally kind of moving out towards the other side.
That's the great thing about Las Vegas weather. If you wait long enough, it will change.
Exactly.
It doesn't take that long, right? Yeah. So it's like a fun time. What was the thing I was listening to coming in today about the drum kit that Brendan had?
So he came in to do an acoustic set. So he was on the stage, like literally next to the wave pool. So him plugged in with the sound with his guitar, and he had this drum machine where he could actually like record loops and things. So it had like a bunch of like pads on it. So he was just like kind of going doom doom ch, doom doom ch, and he was recording it, and then it would loop it. So he was like doom doom ch, and then he would just hit play, and then it would start doing that, and then he would plug in his guitar and play like a little riff of da-da-da-ch, da-da-da-ch, and it would play it with it, and so it almost sounded like he had a band with him. So he had a couple of layers. He had like a beat layer, a guitar layer, then he had like a bass layer, and then he played the acoustic guitar with it and sang and just kind of set up a beat while he was going, and so it was fun because he kind of improvised with it. It was like a one-man band.
Yeah, it sounded like this is one of those events. If the weather hadn't been so gnarly, it would have still been a great event. But this is like one of those lifetime things where everybody can talk about the time they came to this event and the weather was crazy and there was lightning and stuff, but it was still, the show still went on.
Yeah, I think 5,300 people ended up coming out, so the weather didn't scare everybody away, so that was good.
5,300 people, that's amazing. Yeah. How many other events do you have? Let's move forward. Yeah,
we do a lot of different events. We usually do some things around Christmas. Usually every quarter we're looking at, like every 3 months or so, can we put something, whether it's a cool event to bring families together or some sort of service project. A lot of times we'll get the artists that we play. I mean, these guys have a heart for service. I mean, being in Christian music, I mean, that's kind of the heart of why you want to do that.
Right.
You know, these aren't the guys driving the Bentleys and the Maseratis, you know what I mean? But these are guys that really have a heart to serve, and they're leaving their families and playing tours and driving across the country to encourage people and share their stories. And when they come through, we usually are asking, hey, you guys want to serve? And we had the afters go, and they were working at the Las Vegas Rescue Mission last time they came through. Switchfoot was playing Mandalay Bay with Need to Breathe, and we had connected with them and said, hey, you guys want to do something unique and see the other side of Las Vegas? I mean, you're staying in a big resort property, but why don't you drive down Paradise, make a ride over on Sahara, come down to City Impact Center. It's an amazing community center. They have these urban gardens. They have a lot of after-school activities for inner-city youth, and they have the urban gardens there where they actually teach kids about sustainability and farming and planting. And so Switchfoot came, and they were planting, and they were painting, and they were getting the rakes and all these things, and they were working the soil and digging trenches and planting with us. And we had about 50 volunteers that came out with them. And so we like to do fun things like that when we get the artists coming through that have that heart for service.
I want you to hang around for just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tips on cooling systems. This vehicle's got about 182,000 miles on it, so if you're checking the coolant, check the hoses too. Just feel them and see if they're soft or any signs of fatigue for the mileage on it. They don't feel bad. They look like they're still the original hose, but you want to make sure you don't go too long with these hoses because they will eventually deteriorate, cause a problem. In this case, this car's got a visible leak. The customer brought it to us. We'll pop the hood and check the cooling system. First, we just relieve any pressure that might be on the cap. Remove the cap, take a look inside. We see it's kind of low. Now we'll start our inspection. What we found on this one is the top tank is leaking. It's got a crack in it. Pretty common for these plastic radiators to do that. I want to get to a shop right away because severe engine damage can result from overheating condition like this. In this case, it was pretty easy to see the crack was right on the top tank, but a lot of times we'll have to pressurize the system to locate the exact leak. Could be a hose in the back, could be underneath. Some of these are hard to find, but in this case, a very common leak, the top tank. When we're testing a cooling system, it's okay to use just water, but you want to make sure when you're filling it up properly, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water. It needs the water to make the chemical work, so don't just put straight antifreeze. 50-50 mix is the best way to go. Keep it clean, keep it rust-free. So as you can see, we got a pretty active leak. You got to get this fixed, so there's going to be some engine problems. If you're going to top off your own coolant, it's really not that hard. If you got a radiator cap, just make sure it's not hot. Take the cap off and take a look. In this case, we're pretty full here, but what we have is the overflow jugs empty. So we'll just add that. Once again, check your manufacturer's specs to make sure what type of coolant you have. In this case, we're using the good old green. There's gold, there's red, there's yellow, all types out there. Just want to make sure you're staying with your manufacturer recommended coolant. And that's really all there is to it. The cooling system is a major component. You'll want to service that regularly. If you have a problem, it could be too late and cost you thousands of dollars. If ever you have a problem, come into Sun Valley Automotive. It's no charge to look at your cooling system. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Welcome back to Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. I'm here with Scott Herrold. He is the program director and the morning DJ at SOS Radio Station, and on their website, it's sosradio.net. And the reason why I want to say this is because I'm notorious for doing .com for everything. And Project 150 is what we're talking about, the Cup of Soup Drive, and that's project150.org. So it's .net for the radio station, .org for Project 150, but all of the information about the drive is on the radio station's website too, so you can go there. And if you can't drive down to Sahara and 6th Street, you have the option of going online and making a monetary donation, or making arrangements if it's possible to have maybe someone from a church, because you mentioned right before the break, and this is one of the things I also love, is there is no you have to be a Christian to donate to this. Your outreach is to anyone. All of the different.
And we serve anyone.
Yes, anyone here in the community can come and be a part of this drive.
Absolutely. We have businesses that donate. We have people that are in other nonprofit organizations that are raising their own funds and doing their own drives and things like that we partner with.
Right.
Just all throughout the year. And we have some of those that have said, hey, you know what? We sent out a flyer, we took a picture of your website, and we just asked people, hey, you want to donate these? And we'll take them down to you before the end of the month. What date do you need them by?
Yeah.
We're collecting them through the end of this month, but you know what? If you bring them in after that, we're going to get them to the kids. That's what this is about. It's interesting because Project 150 says they have about 6,000 students that they work with in Clark County alone. They said about 3,000 of those are registered homeless, and the other 3,000 are displaced or disadvantaged, and they come in and they're asking for help. They're asking for resources, and this is just focused on high school students.
Right.
And those that, many of them do have part-time jobs. They see this opportunity as my education is my way out of this dysfunctional cycle that my family's in, and I've got to pursue my education.
Right.
Project 150 helps them. They have the computer systems to let them do their projects and their homework, help them to apply for scholarships, help them to find those scholarships, and fill out the financial aid forms and vouch for them on that. That's what I love. Yeah,
and they have at Project 150, and it's on Rancho, kind of as you're getting close to the 95, but it's like right there. It's like right across from a gas station. It says it's on Rancho, but it's really a little bit off of Rancho, because I know the first time I went looking for it, I was riding all up and down Rancho looking for it, but it's a little bit off Rancho. But one of the things that's really cool that they have is they have this the most unique. It's a thrift store, but it doesn't look like a thrift store. They've got this thing tricked out like a department store, and they let the kids come in and shop for clothes. One of the things that's really important to Project 150, and I hear this all the time in the community, they want to make sure that these kids, when they go to school, don't feel like they're different, that they melt in. And so the clothes that they have for these kids to choose from are just the same stuff that you're going to find at Target or at any mall here in town. Really nice quality clothes that these kids can come in and shop just like any other kid would shop.
Yeah, because you want style. You're trying to fit in. We all feel awkward when we're in junior high and high school, right?
Yeah.
Even the cool kids we grow up, we go to our reunions 20 years later, we realize they felt just as awkward as we did, right?
Yeah. They just played it off really well.
Exactly.
But yeah. So that's another thing that they have. And then they also have the programs where people in the community, if you want to, you can help mentor these kids. Because if they don't have, and Melly Polito has talked about this on your station, a lot of these kids don't have father or mother figures. A lot of these kids have been the only mothers or fathers that their siblings have ever known. And so now here they are going out into the world without any role models. They need somebody to show them how to be a man or how to be a woman or how to be an adult in the world and be a healthy adult in the world.
I know, and sometimes they just try to figure it out, and that's where those mentors come in. It was really interesting because our radio stations worked with Mayor Goodman's office in a lot of ways, and there's something that's called the Mayor's Faith Initiative.
Yes.
And some pastors kind of worked with the city and basically said, hey, what are some of the social issues that haven't changed from when Oscar Goodman was the mayor to even before that? And she said, here's the deal. The needs in Las Vegas, in order of need, were addiction, the breakdown of the family, jobs, homelessness, education, human trafficking were some of the biggest needs in our city consistently that haven't really changed a whole lot in the last 20 years. And when you think about that, you think about where our families are today. Addiction, that destroys family. You know, the breakdown of the family itself, like divorce, it's heartbreaking.
Right.
You know, no one really walks away from a divorce in a better place.
Right.
Even when you feel like you're in a toxic situation, it's, you know, financially, emotionally, you know, it's something you have to work through. You know, obviously you don't have jobs, you don't have income. Education, it's a big challenge in our community. And that's what we're really just trying to wrap our arms or wrap our heart around to say, there's problems, but how can we offer some solutions as a Christian community to say, let's not complain about the state of where we're at, or let's not just leave culture. Let's be a service to our city because people need love and encouragement, and they also need the resources.
And what I love about these drives, both of these drives, and I'm sure you've done many, many more since I'm a new fan, is that you're making it easy for people to become involved. It's not like this big time commitment. I think that scares people off if they think, I've got to sign up and I got to do so much time or so much service, and then they feel guilty, then they don't show up, and then they feel guilty, and then they don't come back. But in this case, you can come with a case of soup, or people who came with a case of water, and still feel part of the community, and it makes them feel included and maybe even more encouraged to maybe do even more.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about what hope is. It's, if you don't have hope, you're dead in the water. You know what I mean? When you're depressed, when you're anxious, when you don't see any way out of the circle of crazy that you're just in, it's like we keep doing the same things over. What's that definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again. It's like
something different.
Yeah, what do we got to do to break that cycle?
Right.
Well, it means changing it, or taking that wheel, popping the tire, or taking that wheel and turning it on its side and spinning it a different way.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at hope, it's like, where are we looking at truth? Where's the truth that we're basing things off of? Because when we're basing truth off of our feelings, it's not grounded in anything.
Right.
You know, we can look at things as being relative, and what's true for you, what's true for me, and that's real. But really going back to asking yourself, what ultimately is absolute truth, and where can I plug into truth and use that as my foundation, and then figure out a plan for breaking out of that? I think that's where you find hope, and you find that there's an anchored spot that you can anchor back into.
Yeah, and what I love about at least the programs I listen to on a regular basis on your station is I don't feel preached to. I feel that the information, either whether it's the shows that are hosted by the pastors or all of you who are all program hosts, when you're talking, you're just talking like regular people. I don't ever feel like I'm like, you know, and you must believe this and you must do that and pow, 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 which I think tends to turn people off from religion. If they're, it's like, if this is making me feel bad, this is not helping.
Yeah.
But I feel, and I'm just going to share my own experience, I feel enlightened. I feel encouraged. I feel like, well, this is like really great. Like, I feel good about myself, you know. I just love the messages that you guys all share. And you talk about, you know, there's parts of scriptures, but it's not as if you don't have to come with any preconceived notion about what it takes to be an SOS listener.
Yeah, I think for me, and I think for most of our team, from Dan and Robert and CC and JD, it's like we're just sharing what's been real to us and what our experience is, and if that resonates with you, awesome. But we're just trying to be encouragers because we realize, especially in a town like this, there's a lot of brokenness.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys on our staff have been there.
Yeah.
You look at addiction, you look at divorce, you look at, separation with your kids and all these things. Like, we have people on our team that's been their story, and they're able to speak into that because they've seen God step in and help break that cycle. And I think that's why they're able to resonate with so many people, because it's not saying, oh, hey, like, we're trying to put on some fake facade of what life should be like or what it could be like. It's, listen, here's where I am. I was a mess. God stepped into my story at this point, and we worked really hard, but ultimately it was God changing something inside of me that finally connected that, and me surrendering my control and my will and realizing that I'm not really in control of anything. The problem is I thought I was 20 years ago, and I thought that I had to hold it all together. But now I can live life with open hands, and I can move forward because I'm giving that over and saying, I surrender. That's my story.
I get the biggest kick out of when I'm like really just I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is not working. As soon as I get in the car, I don't know how this happens. Oh, I do know how it happens. Thy will be done. That song comes on. It's like, okay, I get it. It's all right. But I also love that you guys not only share your struggles in the past, but like, I get the biggest kick out of Cece because she is so real. She's like, you know what? My kids got on my nerves. My husband got on my nerves. My neighbors got on my nerve, and I just had to give it to God. And but she talks like in real life. It's like, yes, these irritating things, like somebody left socks on the floor, and I had to pray about that. Because, it's like, yes, every mother, no matter what denomination you're from, she's going, yes. This is like the human, and that is it. It's the human experience. The music is also. It's so contemporary. It's the same beats and the same rhythms that you'll hear anywhere else, but it's the lyrics that make all the difference. The music is beautiful, but it's the lyrics. If you listen to what's actually being sung, that is just really what will touch your heart.
Yeah, it's been interesting because, I think in pop music for a lot of years in the 90s, there was the singer-songwriter focused music.
Yeah.
And that shifted, and then, hip-hop started growing where it was more rock and acoustic bass, and then it got into the Nickelback era where everything sounded like Nickelback, and then it went into a hip-hop, like, dance beat, like rhythm R&B kind of style that took over top 40. And I think we're kind of in a new era where that's been developing into the pop, because you get into the super real singer-songwriter to the plastic manufactured beats. And I think a lot of where we're at in pop music right now, there's a lot of the plastic manufactured beats. But in a lot of the artists that we have, they're doing a lot of the singer-songwriter things because they're writing from their perspective. And there's one particular artist that we have that I was thinking about, Matthew West, as you were talking about that. He actually thought, hey, what can I do differently? As an art form, I've been writing songs for 20 years, and he's written songs for some of the biggest artists in Hollywood and in Nashville, and he was just like, what can I do to kind of grow my art? And so he actually asked fans to write letters of their story to him. He said, I want to write a whole album of songs based off real people's story. So he and his band and their manager just rented a cabin up in the hills in Tennessee and Appalachian Mountains and said, you know what, we're going to spend a week here, and we're going to just pour over all these stories, and let's write songs based on other people's stories. And he made a whole album. And then he had so many more stories, and it was a huge hit. He did it again and again. And what I love about that is it goes back to it's really a story. I mean, that's what you've been doing your whole career is telling stories. Because you know that's what, number one, gets you up in the morning and points you back to hope. But that's where you see the good in humanity.
Yes. Well, then that's what I was telling a friend of mine. She says, like, well, what drives you? What makes you? And it's what attracted me to your station, too. I said, I love news, don't get me wrong. But just covering the latest fire and who got shot and it's like these are terrible stories, and these things happen. What I love and what I've got from your station and the people I've met at your station are the real stories. I love standing in line at 7-Eleven talking to somebody behind me and what are you living right now? What is your experience right now? I love hearing people's real stories, not what they're making up to be on reality TV or all that stuff that really is what most TV and stuff is about right now. It's manufactured stories. No, what happened to you when you got up this morning? What was your experience like, and what can I take from that? Because everybody I've ever interviewed, and you included today, I'm like so thrilled that you're here on my show. But real people. I want to hear the real story, not the story that you're making up for somebody else, but the real story of what it was like. You know, you thought you were going to be a big sports star, but now you're a big star in Christian radio here in Las Vegas, and reaching. You would have reached people as a sports star, but think about the souls that you're touching through what you're doing now.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was working at this top 40 radio station in Detroit, and we did this big concert. It was called the DRQ Summer Heat Rave, okay? And we were at the Palace of Auburn Hills where the Detroit Pistons play. So we're getting set up. We had Shaggy, Ja Rule, Ashanti, Michelle Branch. There was a bunch of artists, P. Diddy, and they're all performing at this show. And so we're getting set up, and so we've got everybody waiting in line to get into this big giant basketball arena, and there's a line wrapped around the building, and so we're at the top of this atrium. There's a big staircase. It's kind of like if you're going to T-Mobile Arena and you've got the escalators going up, and we're right at the top there. So we've got our subs, and we're just jamming our music while everybody's waiting downstairs to get in. And so they open up the doors, everybody comes in, and I'm at our booth, and we've got all our music, and all our DJs are there, and everything's decked out, and the artists are there. And there was a song by Shaggy. It's called It Wasn't Me. And it was basically about his girlfriend catching him doing something inappropriate with the girl next door. He was cheating on his girl.
Right.
And I'm listening to that song on the radio. I mean, we play that song 100 times a week on our radio station. Every 40, 45 minutes it would play on our radio station. And it was the most requested song, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I see these 6, 7, 8-year-old girls all walking by, and they're just bobbing their heads, singing every single lyric to that song. And I started to feel convicted.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, you know what?
Yeah.
Am I selling this? This is what's cool? This is what you should aspire to? That this is what you should look forward to? You know?
Yeah.
That this is a good guy that we're celebrating?
Yeah.
Because he's a star, and he's living it up at the club, and he's got a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and a Porsche and a Bentley, and he's got a big house in Hollywood. And like, what am I selling as a personality? I want to share hope with people. I don't want to teach kids that this is what they should look forward to. I don't want to plant that bad seed. And so that's when I started to feel convicted. And then literally a week or so later, I was working at a Kid Rock show, and he obviously you know all about him,
right.
and there was a little 8-year-old kid that had a shirt on with a middle finger on it, and it was saying,
right,
I'm from Detroit, and it had the hand in the air, and I was like, man, it was like the second conviction on that in the same week, and I feel like, you know what, I want to do something a little different. I'd rather share hope, and I'd rather build into people, especially build into young people, because I don't want to tell them this is what you're supposed to aspire to.
Right.
I want to challenge them to be generous. I want to challenge them to be great citizens. I want to challenge them to be mentors. I want to challenge them to give back. I want to challenge them to contribute to the community and have an amazing work ethic and have ideas and be visionary and be entrepreneurial. Those are the kind of things that I'd like to build into as the next generation.
Sure. And that's what touched Don and me so much when this kid came in, last week, and when he walked out, it was like, it was such a little thing, but it was such a huge thing that he waited a whole year to come back to the station and to give back. And he didn't have to, but it made such an impact. Whatever he experienced over that year, it made such an impact on him that for his birthday present, he didn't want to. He wanted his present to himself was to give to someone else. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. This is amazing. And that's how it starts.
That's absolutely how it starts.
Yeah, yeah. So as you go out in the community and you tell people that you're with SOS, what's their reaction?
SOS has been one of the 5 highest rated radio stations in all of Las Vegas.
Right.
People don't think Christian radio is going to do that well in Sin City, but it's done really well. But I think it's just because we just try to share stories and we really try to serve this city. But that's the part that I hear a lot is that you guys serve this city. And I think in just the corporate world that things are in, where everything's bought and paid for and sponsored, nothing against commerce. I don't have a problem with with advertisements for sodas and things like that, and stores and mortgage companies. Like that's what does fuel a lot of the business in our community. But you know what? We just try to serve the city. And when we're able to do that without all the commercials, I think that's the part that people just notice. They just go, I hear the right song at the right time. That's the line that we hear all the time. And it's so funny because somebody had actually donated some billboards to us and said, hey, we'll put you up on some billboards. And someone who was a listener of ours that worked for one of the billboard companies like, hey, we'll hook you guys up. You want to put up a billboard? And we were trying to think, like, what could we put on a billboard that would share what we do in a sentence because
Right.
you can't really say a whole lot.
Right.
And we literally were looking through something we do called the music board, where people rate our songs and they share feedback on what we're doing, and we send it out to a lot of our listeners. And we were just looking through, like, what are they saying about this radio station, and how does it connect with them? How does it encourage them? And we kept seeing the same words over and over again. I heard the right song at the time I needed it.
Yeah.
I heard certain words at a certain time. I heard
Yes.
that right song at the right time, and we were like, oh, there's something to that. And so
Yes.
that's what we put up there. And that's kind of taken on a life of its own, is it shared that. And now we have all these clips and things that we'll hear in interviews, and people say the same thing, and you hear them all throughout the radio station. And it's about God using those words and speaking to you just a little bit of encouragement right when you need it.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what gets us up in the morning and keeps us moving.
And one of the great things about you're not getting like a lot of corporate sponsors, but one thing I can tell you in my experience working on the show, Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese, and the different organizations I've had on the show, another one that is going through the same experience that you guys are is Veterans Village, Arnie Stock over there. He gets all of the major hotels, probably all of the big construction people, all of these folks who donate to all of his projects. They never ask for any promotion. And so I've gone to a lot of the different veterans villages in different places. Now see, I won't name any names because they don't want their names to be used. They're just there giving because it's what they want to do. And then they get their employees to come out and get involved as well without ever, there's no request for a pat on the back. They just show up and they do their thing. And just like you're getting the support from the listeners. Nobody's asking for it. Put my name up there and say whatever it is. No, people call in and they say, I did this and I'm so happy to hear from you. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because they want any sort of feedback or they want something in return for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a thing that a lot of people miss about Las Vegas is that because that's not reported, they don't know that it's happening. But I can tell you that a lot of stuff, a lot of major projects are happening in this community because of these big companies and small companies, and volunteers, hundreds of thousands of volunteers who are not asking for any acknowledgement or credit. They're just doing it because they want to do it because it makes them feel good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's wild because like when I worked in commercial radio and we'd be selling advertisements to like a cup of noodles company, you sell them spots, spending $100,000 to be on the radio station for a few months, and then you come and you work a non-commercial Christian radio, and you realize my salary and this bottle of water and this microphone, and if we have a shirt that has our logo on it, that's money that came in from donations, or the staff bought it themselves.
Right.
And you find that what do you think the average gift is to a radio station?
What
if
is
somebody was, a monthly partner, and Rikki said, I want to sign up and I want to be a monthly partner, the average gift is $40 a month.
I spend more than that on Starbucks.
Seriously.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And the national average, I know at least for Christian radio,
Right.
I don't know how it is for other nonprofit radio like the NPRs in the world, but the national average for Christian radio is about 1% of the listeners support it financially. So you think about what we can do, the impact that we could have in a city like this, and growing that into other cities in Salt Lake and Idaho and Montana and Southern California. Off 1% of the listeners investing in that ends up being about $40 a month, $480 a year. You just see, I don't know, God multiplies it behind the scenes.
Exactly.
That's the way I see the math. It's not
Exactly.
addition when I look at it all. I look at the numbers at the end and I'm like, man, there's some multiplication that was happening here. God's been good.
And once again, because you do make it so easy for your listeners to take part. They don't feel like they're being, like when I listen, I don't feel like I'm being hit over the head. I've got to do something to be part of this community. I feel like just by listening and just by, I was all excited. I had to get the little kid at Smith's to get up on their thing because they didn't have any ones that were wrapped in plastic. I said, could you get those? And he said, why are you buying so much soup? I said, because it'll make me feel good. He was like, this lady's like, she's crazy for ramen. Like, I didn't want to go into it,
She's like, you're not in college anymore.
Right, exactly. It's like, get over yourself, lady. But it's like, no, it's just the joy of giving back and the joy just to do it just because. And that, I think, is the thing that just drives everybody to your station. I'm just generally speaking for everybody. I'm speaking for myself, but that's what gets me up in the morning. And you're the first one. You're my first preset. And
All right.
every so often, just because I feel like the reason why I even started listening to radio again was to reacquaint myself with pop radio and just find out what people are listening to and why.
Yeah.
And then I'll like get to a couple of stations and I'm like, okay, I've now reacquainted myself with modern with pop radio. I'm done. I know what Rihanna's doing. I know what Drake is doing. I don't care. I'm going back. You know? No, just wonder how many people do that. It's like, let me just go see. Oh, I can't do it anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We hear quite a few stories like that.
Sure.
But you know what? We're just trying to share what's real with us, and we're just trying to share some hope in our city. And just put a positive worldview out there when everything else in the morning is just two sides fighting each other.
I know. Over what?
I don't need the fight. I just need some encouragement, you know?
Exactly. I want to be happy.
I'm trying to raise 2 kids in this crazy world.
So how old are your kids?
My son just turns 8 on Saturday, and my daughter
Happy
just
birthday.
turned 9 like a week and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
you
it's
got
birthday month for us.
youngsters.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I have one going into 3rd grade and one going into 4th grade, and doing soccer, and it's busy.
It's got to be really, for you, got to be really proud of what you do of a day, too, because of what you're doing for the world that you're creating for them.
It beats working for a living.
That's
we get
great.
to play music, we get to share stories, we get to talk to some awesome authors and artists, and we get to have fun. Just have some good conversation. And
what are some things
rewarding.
that you haven't done that you would like the community to help you do?
Wow. You know, as I've been thinking about this, I'm trying to think, you know, as I've been thinking about like this Christmas, and we were talking a little bit earlier about this Hope for Prisoners Christmas drive, I'd like to grow that so we can reach more families. We've done it on a basic level and did 15 families the first year and did 25 families the second year. I pretty much maxed out the space at Casa Grande, and I've just been thinking, like, what would be big vision for that? Like, what could we do to bring in some artists that could really connect with that community, that could really speak into their lives, that could really connect with those kids that are just going through a rough time? And how could we really just take that spirit of St. Nicholas, the generosity part of it, and make it so much bigger and more focused and impactful for those kids?
Right.
What would it take just to blow that up big? That's just kind of what I've been thinking about this year.
Right.
I'm not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but I know we want to grow it.
All right. Well, that's Scott Herrold's wish list for Christmas. And so since we're in the month of July, you got plenty of time to think about how you can reach out. And I'm sure you'll probably have another drive between now and then. But just to recap, let everybody know how long this is going to go on for the month of July, right?
Yep. Yeah, we'll be collecting cup noodles for the whole month. We're looking for the cases. I think like the 36-pack, 40-pack, you know, whatever you can do. If you can just do a couple, that's great too, because it all adds up. One right there, that's one meal for a student. But we're doing that for Project 150 all through this month at our SOS Radio studios. We're on 6th Street in Sahara. We're open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Closed on the weekend, but Project 150 is another place where you can drop them off. Right by their thrift store off Rancho. Exactly,
and you can kind of take a look around, get to meet Millie Polito, who is the driving force behind Project 150. And if you're really, really lucky, you might get to meet a couple of the founders of Project 150, because they also still donate their time to keep that organization going. I mean, just some tremendous guys who saw a need at Rancho High School years ago. They found out that there were 100, that's why it's called Project 150. They found out that there were 150 students at Rancho who didn't have anything for Christmas. And so they created this program based on those kids, and that's why it's called Project 150. I mean, can you imagine? It's Christmas time, you have nothing, you know? And that's how it got started, and it's grown as the need has grown. So, you know, SOSradio.net, they need your help. Project150.org, they need your help, and you can help as much as you can. You don't think it's got to be some big, huge volunteer effort, or you got to come up with a truckload of cup noodles. You know, whatever you can do is going to definitely be appreciated by the 6,000 kids who are disadvantaged or homeless here in Southern Nevada and are struggling. They are determined to graduate from high school, and they can do it with your help.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. 4,000 cases is what we need. You can tune in on SOS Radio 90.5. We'll give you the updates through the rest of the month, but
Yeah.
We're hoping for those 4,000. We're about 25% of the way there right now.
It's really good. Well, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it. And of course, check out my Facebook page because I try to make it down there at least every couple of days to watch the dun 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 as the piles of cup of soup, cup noodles grows. And so, thank you for all of you who have already donated and all of you who are going to donate. It's a really great cause. And thank you, Scott, for being my guest on my show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.